So, Shannon, I'm aware that exercise plays a significant role in your spiritual journey. I'd like to know, how did this connection unfold for you? And I'd love to hear about your experiences and insights on this transformative path.
Thanks, babe. Yeah, it's a great question because I think there's this kind of hierarchical view of spirituality that doesn't see everyday things that a lot of people do as part of the spiritual experience. And for me, like running is a very, very spiritual experience in my life. And this is something I began to realize when I was actually asked that question by someone, what do you do, spiritually in your day to day? And at first, I sort of had to think about it because I consider myself a really very spiritual person. But I was like, other than meditation and, the sort of typical things that you do, I practice gratitude and things like that. But I was like, I'm not like doing yoga every day, or I'm not, studying spiritual texts every day. But I started to think like, actually in my day to day, what I do is I connect everything I do to a spiritual experience in some way, shape, or form. And one of the strongest ones for me is actually when I'm out running. And I started running during COVID, like a lot of people, it's something to do. I was doing the couch to 5K. I was actually doing it with my mother. And before that, I wasn't really into exercise. So this was around, my 30s. I started getting into it. So it wasn't that long ago. And at first, it was just something to do. It was something to get us out, something that we could do together. And it was a goal to work towards. So we were doing that, and it was really beautiful, and the weather was really nice. So it was a lovely thing to be able to do during that time, to give some structure to our day. But as I started to do it more and more, I started to realize that there's a number of things about running that really connects me to my spiritual side. The first one really is that when I'm running, there's this incredible sort of presence that comes into it because like in all our spiritual I guess tasks and things that we're trying to do, we're trying to be in the present, we're trying to be mindful. And when you're running, you have to be present and mindful because of course you have to watch where you're going, you have to be aware of your surroundings, you're often out engaging with other people during that, so you have to be quite present. And similar to meditation, running can really, really help you be able to, I guess, control your thought patterns because you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're just there, you're in your surroundings, and you are present and going around. And it's something I used to like, and I still do sometimes. Sometimes I listen to books when I'm running. And I was listening to a meditation whilst I was running. And it has to be one of the most profound experiences I've ever had because I don't put in both headphones. I'd have one of my ears out so that I can hear my surroundings. And then I was listening to a guided meditation, and it was like the whole world suddenly became very, very clear to me. And when my feet hit the ground, my breath, my heartbeat, everything that was around me suddenly became in sync, and I really felt part of the universe and part of the world around me. And sometimes that can be quite difficult for people when they're meditating, to disconnect from the thoughts, but also to just really feel present in their bodies. And you have to be so present in your body when you're moving. um so there's this idea, that when you're doing yoga, because you're matching your breath to your movement, that is obviously a fantastic, very bodily experience and a spiritual experience. But you also do the same thing when you're running, without realizing. And I think it's more of a conceptual thing that people don't associate that with a spiritual experience, but it really, really is. And that's the way I've experienced it. Another thing about running that is really spiritual for me is this connection to nature. So when you're running outdoors, I always run outdoors. I know some people do it in gyms and different things, but you connect with nature in a profound way because you feel the earth beneath your feet. You're breathing in the air around you, the fresh air. And one of my favorite things to do is run beside the sea as well. So down on the beach, feeling the sand beneath my feet. breathing in the sea air, listening to the waves crashing. And I can do that for hours without needing any other sort of input, without needing to listen to books, without needing anything. I need to listen to music, anything like that. Because when you're so connected to the natural world around you, it's time stops and you're there in that moment and you're having this beautiful connection and you feel part of everything. And it helps you feel grateful for that world around you and notice things you might not notice. Because when you're going about your day to day, you're sort of in autopilot, a lot of us are. But when you're running like that, you have to be looking and you have to be aware of what's around you. So you're connected to that. And I often notice things that I would never notice in my day to day when I'm running. Another thing, of course, about running is that it's got great physical and mental health benefits. A lot of people, if you're getting any advice on mental health, one of the biggest things is to get out and exercise, and there's a reason for that. It releases all these endorphins, it reduces stress, and promotes a feeling of vitality and energy. So you get all these benefits when you're running as well. And these things can really help you spiritually, because, to be able to provide you with a basis to connect, to feel, to be, you need to have all of these things. You need to be physically looking after yourself and mentally looking after yourself. So it's a great way to add that basis into your day to day as well. And another thing sometimes I use running for is time for self-reflection and insight. So sometimes, of course, part of your spiritual journey, it isn't just about connecting to the present, but it's also having a self-awareness, working on concepts. Like, for instance, we're doing the book club at the moment, reading Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. And it's a time that you can sort of have a look at those concepts, go inside. You're able to process your thoughts better and your emotions more clearly when you're running, because it's just a time for you. You're by yourself. It's your own journey that you're going on. And it's rare to find that time, especially if you're very busy, you have a family, just to have that time for yourself, to be able to take a step away from your life, to be able to remove maybe triggers and different things that are happening to you, and have that time to think about that. So it can be a form of self-reflection and journaling, and which I find very useful to work through things that have happened. There's also, of course, the spiritual side of connection and community. Like I was saying there, I mean, running, you're doing it by yourself. It can be, a very, very individual journey that you go on. But there's also the opportunity to connect to people. You can join running groups. There's very specific ones as well for different communities. You can take part in races for a sense of community and connection with others. You can share your passions with other people. And that's really lovely for your spiritual journey as well, because you can meet like-minded people who are interested in their physical and mental well-being. And so that for me is a lot of the things that I get out of running. And just, I think that it's a great way to add onto your spiritual journey, to be able to give you that space to connect to the now, to think, to process, to be grateful, to connect to nature. And I hope that other people feel the same.
Thanks, Shannon. That was really beautiful. And yeah, I think a lot of the time we don't think of running, like you said at the beginning, like as a spiritual practice, but you made it clear with everything you said that it can be profoundly spiritual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.